What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Game Night YouTube channel. In today's video, guys, I want to give all of you an update about UnderQuest. So, as many of you probably know by now, the crowd sale for UnderQuest over on thegamecrafter.com was canceled. So I kind of want to go into some detail about why the crowd sale was canceled so that you guys aren't in the dark and wondering what's going on. I've been in close contact with Jason Glover, who is, of course, the creator of UnderQuest, and he's given me the green light to go ahead and update you guys, fill you in, and let you know what all is going on. So I've got some notes jotted down so I can kind of, make sure that I cover everything here. But before I get to that, I just want to kind of give you guys a brief idea of why the crowd sale was canceled, and then I'll go into more detail about that. So essentially, I was playtesting the game a lot. I was one of two, content creators on YouTube who was sent a copy of UnderQuest early to check out and to showcase to all of you guys and get you hyped up for the crowd sale. Well, as many of you may know, I've got a lot of Iron Helm videos on my channel, and UnderQuest, of course, is basically like the spiritual successor to Iron Helm. It's very similar in a lot of ways. Of course, it's got a lot of new awesome mechanics, but it's similar enough that I was able to pick up on the game very quickly from all the dozens, hundreds of times that I've played Iron Helm, both on and off of my channel. And I picked up on some things in the game in UnderQuest that didn't seem quite up to where they should be. And they were kind of glaring issues with some of the core mechanics of the game, mainly the combat system in the game. I brought this to Jason's attention. He had done some of his own internal testing, but he even told me he was really playing the game kind of like, like a more casual player would normally play the game, who might not necessarily run into some of these issues. But I really try to push the games to their limit and sort of like break them, so to speak. Not in a negative way, but just in a way that it's like, hey, let's try to find all of the flaws and kinks in the game so we can work them out and make the game like as solid and as good as possible. So that's basically what I like to do, and that's what I was doing with UnderQuest, again, because I've played so much Iron Helm. So there were a few things in the game that I'm going to go into detail about here in just a moment that seemed like they needed to be resolved. And again, I brought these to Jason's attention. He was very, very appreciative of it, unbelievably appreciative. The dude is super, super humble. He wasn't, fighting back on it or anything like that. He truly wants UnderQuest to be the absolute best game that it can be for you guys so that you guys can enjoy the game. And as difficult as it was, guys, because at the time of the cancellation of the crowd sale, the game had sold over 1,000 copies in the crowd sale, not to mention the like 700 plus playmats that had sold and like nearly 600 of the character sheet pads had sold too. It was a lot of sales, guys. So Jason truly wants this game to be as good as it can be for you guys. So he took the hit there and canceled the crowd sale. I know it affects all of you guys too, because you're going to have to wait just a little bit longer, and I'm going to tell you guys when the crowd sale will most likely be launching. So stick around so you can find out about that. Not to tease you, but I just kind of want to go into the other stuff first so that all of that will make sense. Also, I want to let you guys know that nothing that I say in today's video is 100% set in stone. There could be things that change along the way. And I do want to mention, and again, Jason gave me, the green light to tell you guys all of this stuff. First off, before I say what I'm going to say here, I want to say first and foremost, this is Jason's game, guys. Like, this is Jason Glover's game. He's the one that spent the past, 2-3 years, whatever it's been, pouring all of his hard work and thought and effort into this game, doing all this incredible artwork, laying the foundations of the game. The game is super solid. The game is amazing. It just has some little kinks that need to be worked out. And I'm sort of just coming in on the tail end of it, playing it as a playtester and recognizing areas that it needs, that needs work. So Jason has been humble enough and gracious enough to allow me to personally work with him on UnderQuest, and also help him with future expansions for the game, which is going to be incredible. And, it's a dream come true for me because I started my channel playing Iron Helm. So to be able to work directly with Jason on UnderQuest is so, so cool. But again, guys, I'm not going to try to like ride Jason's coattails or pretend that like I'm suddenly half the creative team of UnderQuest. I am helping him at this point in time, but Jason's the one that laid all the foundations for the game, and he put in all the hard work to create everything you see on this table right here in front of you. So I'm also humbled to be able to work with him and help him refine all of this right here, guys. So yeah, so I just want to get that out of the way first and foremost. I don't want you guys thinking that I'm coming in and trying to be like, yeah, man, I'm like, you know, I'm working with Jason Glover on UnderQuest now. Like it's not like that. It's my pleasure to do it. And, you know, he invited me to help him with it. It was his idea to have me help him with the game and balancing the game, and have me play test the game with him. So, okay. So I think I pretty much got all of that stuff out of the way. And again, just to, I don't even know if I really mentioned this, but just to iterate or reiterate, the reason that the crowd sale was canceled, that Jason made the really tough decision to cancel the crowd sale, is just straight up because he wants the game to be as good as it can be. And with the feedback that I provided him, he felt that it was best to go ahead and cancel the crowd sale, so that way we can work on the game, him not, you know, feel like he made a mistake by just releasing the game in the state that it was in. And again, it's all because he wants the game to be as good as possible, and that's his main goal, and that's my main goal as well. If I didn't care, I would have just played the game and been like, yeah, man, it's great, you know, release it. And the game is great. There are many things about the game that are unbelievably good, but the few things that weren't quite there they're a big deal, you know, and so we really want to dial those in so that way the game is as good as it can be for you guys. So let's go ahead and get into the finer details here. So I've got a little list here. I'm going to go down the line. So basically, guys, the major thing that I was noticing in the game was the combat system, and I know that several of you guys were also aware of this. I saw your comments. They ranged from, you know, this game is amazing, I can't wait to get it, all the way to I was so excited for this game, but now that I actually see it being played, I don't want it anymore. So it was kind of brutal, you know what I mean? And I get it, like that's your guys' honest opinion, and it's a fair point. And it was basically over the combat system. Anybody that's watched that playthrough video, which I'll say as an aside real quick, the tutorial, unboxing, and first playthrough of the game are going to stay up on my channel until Jason sends me a new copy of the game for me to start, you know, play testing and making videos with. And at that point, I'll take those videos down. But for you guys that did see that first playthrough video, you'll have seen me basically one-shotting everything in the game. And when I say one-shot, I mean I was killing enemies in one go. I would roll the dice once, hit them once, and kill them. And it didn't create that sort of back and forth, you know, tense battle situation that you might want in a game like this, in a dungeon crawler. It felt more like you were kind of just, you know, strolling up to the enemies and just whacking them on the head, you know what I mean? And that was it. And so many of you guys weren't very fond of that, or at least some of you weren't very fond of that. I personally also wasn't very fond of it, and it was something that I noticed and brought up to Jason. And a big reason that was happening was magic damage, amongst other things, and I'm going to cover all of that stuff. So the very first thing I want to mention here, guys, is that we ran into this sort of, you know, issue where I brought it up to Jason, and I was like, I think that the issue with the combat system mainly is that everything in the game is a glass cannon. Now, if you're not familiar with the term glass cannon, it essentially means that you can dish out a ton of damage, but it's like you're made of glass, so you can barely take any damage. You just shatter if anything hits you. And it's kind of like the player and all of the enemies in the game are basically like glass cannons. Like, I was one-shotting them, but if I didn't one-shot them and I had to get in a battle where we were hitting each other back and forth, the player has such low health and the enemies deal so much damage that you could only sustain 2, 3, maybe 4 hits if you're lucky before you died. So it was almost a necessity to one-shot the enemies. Otherwise, you're probably going to lose. So the whole combat system as a whole, in that regard, regarding how much damage output you could do and the enemies can do, was flawed. So essentially, I was like, what we need to do is we need to increase player health, and we need to increase the health on the enemies as well. So that way you can have back and forth exchanges with the enemies. You're striking them, they're striking you, but you're not dying in, 2 or 3 hits to the enemies, and you're also not one-shotting them. Preferably, and you still can, don't get me wrong. There are some times I've been playtesting the game with the new rules, as has Jason. There are a handful of times when I've one-shotted an enemy, but it's typically if I'm like on level 1 of the dungeon and it's a very weak enemy and I happen to get a lucky roll or something like that. So it's the exception now instead of the norm. And ideally you would kind of want it to be to where like, you hit them 2 or 3 times for them to die, something like that. Even twice feels better than just one-shotting them. So you at least get that exchange back and forth, and it feels like a cool little battle with this enemy, and it gives you chances to miss or for them to miss and have that little, cool battle situation right there. So the very first thing that, I proposed was essentially, look, we need to increase health. So, and again, guys, I'm going to say this again. I might say it a couple more times throughout the video just to hammer it in. Nothing that I mention in today's video is set in stone. All of this is subject to change, but I'm going to give you guys where we are at, where we're with it right now, where Jason and I are with it right now, playtesting currently with these rules. Again, it could change. It could get tweaked a little bit here and there. It could get completely changed. But what we've landed on right now was I essentially proposed, hey, let's have a 10 health increase on all of the characters. So what we're likely going to do is increase the health of the race cards by probably 5. So all of the race cards will get a 5 health increase. So like this crawling right here would go from 11 health up to 16. Then all of the race cards are probably going to get a 3 health bonus. So like the Savage would go from 4 up to 7. And then all of your familiars over here, your little familiar buddies that you could take with you, they'll increase their bonus health by 2. So like the Glider will go from 1 up to 3. So with that 5, 3, and 2, that totals 10. So no matter how you combine your different characters, you're still going to have a flat 10 health increase on the character. And you'll probably hear me say this a few times as well. I could vouch that it works. It works really, really well. And the sort of win rate that Jason is wanting to go for, he was saying he wants it to be below 50%. And I was like, yeah, honestly, like that 33% range, like 1 out of 3 seems to be like the sweet spot. I'm a bit of a masochist. So like when I made my game Crypt Crawler that a lot of you guys are familiar with, I went for a more like 20 to 25% win rate. But yeah, that's a different story. But for UnderQuest, we're kind of aiming for the 33%, so 1 in 3 range. And that is almost exactly my win rate. I'm a little bit above it. I think that's just due to my knowledge of the game and my experience with the game. But I think for most casual players and most players new to the game, you're going to have about a 33% win rate or so, maybe 25 to 33%. So you'll lose enough that the game is challenging and it'll make you want to play again, but you'll win often enough that it will feel fun and keep you invested, and those wins will be impactful because it's not going to be like you're just one-shotting everything in the dungeon and winning every time, which I'll also say right now, with the rules the way they were originally, I played the game probably about 15 times and I lost twice. I lost my very first time I ever played by getting to level 5 of the dungeon and not reaching the boss. And another time that I lost, oddly enough, I lost to a hag, the enemy, the hag, in the second room of the entire dungeon, just because I kept rolling doubles and missing, and because it highlights the point that I made, everything is a glass cannon. So she hit me like 3 times and I died, so, but every other time that I played, I won every single time. And just as a spoiler, I had 2 other playthroughs uploaded and ready to go, but Jason's request, rightfully so, he asked that I just remove those until we can show, the updated version of the game. So I did. But just to spoil it for you guys, I went the distance. I was one-shotting basically everything in the dungeon, bar, a couple enemies here and there. And I defeated all 3 bosses in the game and just, basically said, okay, we did it. We beat the game. We beat all 3 bosses. So that's what you missed, but don't worry. There's going to be plenty of playthroughs coming up with the new rules, and it's going to be much more interesting on the combat side of things. So yeah, again, a big part of that is going to be because we're increasing player health by 10 across the board. Another thing that we're going to do is increase the enemy health. This is going to help give the enemies a bit more meat on them so that you're not one-shotting them constantly. And the way that we're going about doing that, great idea that Jason had, was to increase the health of the enemies by twice the dungeon level. So instead of them having, 1 health on level 1, they'll have 2 health on level 1. If you get all the way up to level 5, they'll have 10 health because it'll be twice the level. Yeah, so that helps a lot. We've been playtesting that way. It helps a lot. It makes it to where the majority of the time you've got to hit them, 2 or 3 times before you can take them out. It makes you have to spend your grit more often, which was an issue that I'm going to talk about when we talk about magic damage. So yeah, health increases all the way across the board. It's going to make everybody, the player and the enemies, tougher and tankier, and you'll get in these epic back and forth battles now instead of just one-shotting everything, or if you don't one-shot them, taking a couple hits and then dying and losing the game. So that doesn't really happen anymore. Another big thing with the combat system that is going to change is magic damage. So the way magic damage worked was different than the way it worked in Iron Helm. In Iron Helm, if an enemy was weak to a particular type of damage, let's say it's let's say it's a zombie and they're weak to fire. If you had a weapon that dealt fire damage, it would inflict, extra damage to that enemy. So in UnderQuest, it didn't work that way. The magic damage would just inflict extra bonus damage to everything. So let's get like an example here. Like if we had the Shard Axe right here, the Shard Axe deals 3 ice damage to all successful hits. The way that the rules were, this would just deal an extra 3 damage to every enemy in the game. It doesn't matter what they're weak to. You can see here on the enemies, they have weaknesses here, like the Balakor is weak to fire, the Trawler is weak to ice, or the Wraith is weak to holy damage. All 3 of these enemies would take an extra 3 damage that ignores their defense. And considering that, their health was already a little bit on the lower end compared to the damage output of the player, you just one-shot them. Also, to add insult to injury, enemies that were weak to that particular type of damage, in this case, you're dealing 3 ice damage with the Shard Axe. Since the Trawler is weak to ice damage, he would take double magic damage. So he would take 6 magic damage. So I found myself in a situation where most of the time, I didn't even have to spend grit because the magic damage from my weapons and items was so great that I usually had damage left over, that I could just roll my dice, add my magic damage and the stat from my weapon, and that would be plenty enough to just one-shot the enemies the majority of the time. The only exception seemed to be is if I drew into the Exalted Foe card, which is this card in the dungeon deck right here, which would have me drawing 2 abominations and adding the prefix and suffix. And even then, unless that gave them extra health, I was one-shotting Exalted Foes too, which are supposed to be like the hardest enemies in the game. So magic damage was entirely too good. So, and that was actually the very first thing that I noticed in the game that I told Jason. I was like, dude, magic damage is crazy, man. It's like, it is crazy good. It's too strong. Like, it's awesome. And at first, I kind of almost, I don't know if it was like the novelty of the experience or like I just wanted to believe that maybe, it was an anomaly or something, the few games that I had played up until that point, thinking, well, maybe magic damage isn't that big of a deal. No, it turns out it is. Once I got around that like 15 game mark under my belt, I was like, okay, something's got to change here. So the change that I proposed to Jason was just revert it back to how it was in Iron Helm. Revert it back to how it was in Iron Helm. So that way, if you're using the Shard Axe and you deal 3 ice damage, if you're fighting against the Balakor, who's weak to fire, well, you don't deal the 3 extra ice damage because he's not weak to fire. Same with the Wraith. It's weak to holy damage. If you're dealing 3 extra ice damage, it doesn't take the 3 extra ice damage. It just takes the damage of whatever you roll plus the grit that you spend. And then for the Trawler, or other enemies that are weak to ice, in this case, rather than taking the double damage of the magic damage, he would just receive the magic damage. So since you can deal 3 ice damage with all successful hits with the Shard Axe, since he's weak to ice damage, he would take that 3 ice damage. This helps tremendously. It helps in multiple ways. In two ways, namely, 1, enemies aren't dying in one shot anymore because you're not dealing ridiculous amounts of magic damage or double magic damage to enemies weak to it. And secondly, since not all of the enemies are susceptible to that particular type of damage, it bumps down the Shard Axe and the Amber Blade a peg, and they went from being objectively the best weapons in the game that you just always want to have all the time. There's no reason to hold any other weapon. Now they don't necessarily have that title anymore. They are still extremely powerful, but they're not just the best in slot weapons and it makes everything else that you pick up pointless. Yeah, that just isn't the case. It's just not the case. So it's much better. It is much better. And again, that plays into the issue that everything was a glass cannon. The magic damage was a huge part of that. A huge offender, I guess you could say. So I'm going to get into a little bit more detail about those. But I also want to mention too that the incantations I proposed should not change. I think that the magic damage from the incantations should remain how it is in the base game of UnderQuest originally. So when you use ice arrows, deal ice damage to an enemy equal to double your mind skill. Any type of enemy will take damage from that. It doesn't matter if they're weak to fire, or if they're not weak to ice, they'll all take damage from it. And if they are weak to ice, for instance, in this case with the ice arrows, they'll take double damage. So this makes incantations very powerful, and considering they're a one-time use, like once you spend your 1 grit and you shoot off your ice arrows, you flip the card over and you've got to find a way to refresh that incantation. So unlike a weapon that you have that you can just attack with turn after turn after turn after turn, these should be a little bit more powerful, since they're they're not only is there a cost involved to use it, but also it uses it up and you have to find a way to refresh it. So it's very cool. That's also a point that I wanted to make too, is that in my playtesting, I found that I would have, I'd have ice arrows or blizzard or fireball or something chilling over here ready to use, but there was no point to ever use it because it did less damage than just attacking with my weapon and getting to spend grit and rolling dice. So it made the incantations, as cool as they are, these spells that you can cast, it made them kind of useless almost. And there was almost never a reason to use it because it would just do less damage than just attacking and spending grit and adding all my magic damage and the damage from my weapon type. And yes, so now incantations are very useful. They'll deal typically on average more damage than what you can deal, because you can deal double damage to certain enemies. Like I fought I think it was a consuming mass a few games ago off camera in my testing. And let's see if I can find him here for you. Yeah, and he's weak to ice. And I cast Blizzard on him, and I think it was like my second adventure with whatever character I had, and I had upgraded their mind stat to 4. So I was dealing double my mind stat plus 2. So 4 times 2 is 8, plus 2 is 10, and he's weak to ice, so you double that, and it was 20 damage. So I killed like a 19 health consuming mass by just like blizzarding him for 20 damage, and it felt amazing. It felt so cool. So you will still be able to get those sort of one-shots in there, but it's going to be at the expense of, using an incantation at the right moment to an enemy that's weak to it. So anyways, guys, so the incantations, very cool. That's a sort of a byproduct of, revamping the magic system. So magic is going to be different now, and it's in a much better place. Also, another thing that I want to briefly mention, sort of in that same regard, is weapon swapping. The original rule for weapon swapping was that you can't swap weapons when you're in combat. I proposed that you can swap your weapon at the start of combat. This makes it to where if you've got a weapon like, let's see, let me pull out a weapon here so I could show you guys an example. Let's see. Let's say we had like the Wolfsbane blade, and we're also going to pull out the ice or the shard axe as well. Let's say that we had both of these weapons and we happen to run into an enemy that's weak to ice. In this position, rather than, let's say I don't know what the enemy is yet, right? Let's say we don't know what it is yet, and I'm like, well, there's no point to equip my shard axe because, why would I equip this in the the off chance, the 1 in 3 chance or whatever it is that I run into an ice enemy? It's just better to always equip the Wolfsbane blade because it just does a flat extra 2 damage to everything rather than, the extra damage from the shard axe. And this, and keep in mind too, enemies that are weak to magic damage, it's still going to be unblockable damage. It's going to ignore their armor. So that's, it's still better in that way. But yeah, it would make it to where the shard axe, it would just sit in your inventory all game. And it's like there's never any reason to risk equipping it. Now, if I run into the trawler at the beginning of combat, it makes sense thematically too. You could be like, I'm going to unsheath my shard axe and pull that out at the start of combat because you know that the enemy's going to be weak to it, and then you can use that. And then in your next battle, let's say you run into the Wraith and you're like, oh, it's not weak to ice at the start of combat, I'm going to unsheath my Wolfsbane blade. So now rather than having to guess and hope that you run into an enemy or play it safe and never equip a particular weapon that does ice damage, because, 2 out of 3 times on average, you're not going to run into an enemy that's weak to that type of magic damage. Now the player gets a choice. They get to choose, and it's thematically cool. Like I can just imagine my character like being like, oh dude, I got the shard axe in my hand, but a wraith's walking up to me. I'm just gonna sheathe that real quick and shing and unsheathe my wolf's bane blade. So it's really cool, and it gives the player a choice, and it's gonna make these magic dealing, these magic damage dealing weapons like the shard axe, rather than being just the best in slot item against every enemy in the game. Now you could still hang on to them, and when you run into enemies that they're good against, you just pull it out at the beginning of combat, and you're good to go. So I think that's a really solid change right there. It might seem like a minor thing to mention, but it is a really big deal. It really is. It's a really big deal with how useful items are, and giving every item a use, and also making it to where, again, not every weapon is just going to be this like best in slot weapon like the amber blade and the shard axe were before. So moving on from that, there's a few other things I want to mention here. I want to talk about rerolls. So another big thing that I noticed about the game that was a glaring issue to me was the ability to spend your experience points right here in order to reroll dice. So if let's say you rolled in combat for initiative, and you failed, and the enemy gets to attack first, well, I'll just spend an experience point and re-roll. Well, if I fail again, I'll just spend another one and re-roll, and then, okay, cool, I get to attack first now, one shot, it's dead. So it basically, it kind of played into the whole one-shotting the enemies thing, everything being a glass cannon, because Jason asked me, like, how often do you attack second? And I was like, basically never, because I always resolve ambushes as the first card where the player gets to attack first. And if I get into a situation where I, happen to get unlucky and push into a skirmish or something, I just spend my experience points and re-roll to get initiative, one-shot the enemy, and then when the enemy dies, they give you experience points. So you just get the experience points right back. So you're just like endlessly re-rolling, unless you get incredibly unlucky, and fail over and over and over again. And that's just one example. You could re-roll your damage in combat. You can re-roll the enemy's attacks. You can re-roll if you fail a skill check, or if you fail to craft a potion. You can re-roll anything in the whole game, and you just spend your experience points. And they weren't hard to come by because I was just one-shotting enemies and getting experience points like crazy. And it turned out that it was typically better to just hang on to the experience points for rerolls instead of spending them for skills, and that didn't feel great. So my idea that I proposed was, how about we still require the player to spend an experience point, but you also gain a curse token. So if you want to re-roll a roll, you could still re-roll any roll in the game, but if you want to do it, you still have to spend that experience point, but now you also gain a curse token whenever you do so. And if you gain 5 curse tokens, you get one of these Scourge cards right here, and they're pretty nasty. Most of them you don't want to wind up with. And that also solved another issue that I'm going to mention here, in that in the 15 or so games that I had played up until that point, the most curse tokens I had ever acquired in one run was 3. I never even got to 4, much less 5. I never got a Scourge card except for when I would fight the Death Warden. It says before combat, make a mind check. If you fail, gain a Scourge. That was the only way I ever gained a Scourge. I never got it from the curse token. So it's a very cool mechanic, but it never really came into play. So this solves that issue as well, and it gives the player a harder decision to make. It's like, yeah, you can spend the experience point and gain the curse token to re-roll, but how much do you really want to do that? You know what I mean? How many times do you really want to do that? And now it makes it to where when you do that a couple times and you still naturally run into enemies or encounters that give you curse tokens, you're going to end up getting those Scourges now. I've even got into a situation a couple times where I was just really stubborn and I kept missing whatever the roll was. And I was like, no, I'm going to roll it. And I just kept getting Scourges or curse tokens. And I was like, you know what? I don't care. Just give me the Scourge. I'm going to roll again. And I think I ended up losing that game. So it makes it a more interesting decision. It gives a steeper cost to being able to reroll dice, and it brings the curse and Scourge mechanic more to the forefront of the game. Not the forefront of the game, but it makes it it makes it viable. It makes it impactful now, whereas before it just wasn't. Also, my original idea was, how about the player doesn't have to spend experience point tokens, they just get curse tokens. But I quickly realized this would create an issue where you could just reroll infinitely, because you could just reroll, you acquire your 5 curse tokens, you discard them, get a Scourge, and then you just keep re-rolling, get in. Yeah, sure, you would end up with a bunch of Scourges if you did that, but it's still left the door open technically to be able to infinitely re-roll. So I said, okay, how about we keep the 1 XP cost, but you also get a curse token. So that way, if you're only sitting on 3 XP, well, you only get 3 rerolls, and you're still going to acquire those 3 curse tokens. So it works out perfectly, guys. I think it is a very elegant solution to that issue, and it works out really, really well. Another very small thing, I'm just going to mention some little small things that are going to most likely change. Rations are extremely good in this game. Whenever you eat a ration, you gain a health and a grit, and typically, originally, you could eat a ration at any time to do that. And I proposed maybe those should only be, and Jason asked me, like, what do you think about rations? I was like, honestly, man, I think that you should only be able to eat rations in between resolving cards and not during battle. So that's what we've been going with. It definitely helps. You're still going to get the 1 health and the 1 grit whenever you eat a ration, but you won't be able to like chow down on a bunch of food in the middle of a fight to stay alive. So you do have to kind of like manage that and maybe think in between cards, like, ooh, I'm sitting on a few rations. Do I want to eat a couple of those in case I happen to run into a battle, or do I want to save them in case I run into the labyrinth and have to use them? Like, it gives you more tension, and it takes a little bit of the overpoweredness, for lack of a better word, out of the hands of the player. And it gives you a more interesting decision to make. Another thing, minor thing, is quest tokens. So you were able to turn in any quest tokens that you had in order to gain 2 experience points. Jason has nerfed that down to 1. So you can still exchange your quest tokens, but you'll get 1 experience point now, which I think is great, especially considering how powerful it is to be able to re-roll dice. So nerfing that down to 1 experience in exchange for a quest token is a very good change. Also, I proposed that because the health is increasing on the enemies and the players as well, but on the enemies for this point, that we add 1 grit to each familiar. So each of the familiars will give you a certain number of grit. The glider, instead of giving you 1, now he'll give you 2, and so on and so forth. And it's just 1 grit, but it does actually go a long way. And there are also 12 grit tokens in the game. So we can technically only add 1 grit token to each familiar because I mathed it out. If you pick, there's a certain race and class and familiar that all 3 of those have the highest grit stat on them, and they all total to 12 if you add 1 more grit to each familiar. So we can't go above that, and we don't need to necessarily because it works out really well. So that's a minor little change. Also, there's going to be a couple little additions to the rule book. Jason's also going to, revamp the rule book, make sure all this new information and new rules are put into the rule book. But a couple things that are going to be added in that I had suggested and asked him about were that weren't made clear in the rule book is, can incantations be cast outside of combat? And he said they can. Now, I believe there are 5 different incantations in the game. The Magic Lantern is one of them. A really good example of this is Mending Light. Restore health equal to your mind skill +1. Having to skip your turn to attack in combat to restore health, only to be attacked and hit and lose the health that you just got back, sucks. So, so you can use incantations like Mending Light, for instance, outside of combat. So you could heal outside of combat. That's going to, or other incantations that do different things outside of combat, like heal poison, like with Healing Rain and stuff like that. So that's going to go in the rule book, so it's made clear. Also, another thing that I had asked Jason was, I was like, hey man, whenever I run into the merchant, oftentimes I end up getting like the Mimic. Let's see if we can find. I end up getting the Mimic, or I end up pulling the Hidden Stash or the Arrow Trap, and I'm like, I don't know what to do with these. Like it doesn't say what to do in the rulebook, and it doesn't say on the merchant card. So I suggested that also be added to the rulebook. Whenever you encounter the merchant in the dungeon who sells you stuff, he sells 2 treasure and 3 ingredients. If any of the treasures that you draw are the Mimic, the Arrow Trap, or the Hidden Stash, you simply discard those and you redraw. So he doesn't have those, which is great. The most frustrating thing is running into a Mimic. It's like, how does that even make sense? Like, why would this guy have a man-eating treasure chest just chilling and he didn't even realize it? So It's funny, but yeah, it's kind of annoying and frustrating when you run into it. So that's going to be changed and added to the rule book, potentially maybe even added to the merchant card itself. I'm not too sure yet. Yeah, another thing I wanted to mention that you guys were asking about, because I had said in my videos, I was like, yeah, the game didn't come with an encumbrance tracker. I've just been using this player health tracker for that. Jason is going to add an encumbrance tracker to the game. Everyone rejoice. Also, he's toying with the idea of using these large cards that the game crafter sells and using those for the stat trackers, especially considering that enemy health is going to be increasing, or player health is going to be increasing. More importantly, like you'll be able to get more than 21 health now, so you'll need a tracker card that can go above that. So that's going to free up some space. We've got, I've only got 4 of the cards on the table, but there's like, I think 3 or 4 other, poker-sized cards that are the same size as the rest of the cards in the game that are being used for trackers here in the box. And so that's going to free up some space, guys. And there's going to be like there's going to be like 8 or so new cards that are going to get added to the game. And one of them, or a couple of them, I am so excited about, and I want to send a big shout out and thank you guys to some of you guys that reached out to Jason about this. I want to say it was The Last Ronin, right, dude? I think that's your name on Discord and YouTube. I've been chatting with you on there. Yeah, you guys reached out to Jason and were like, hey, could we maybe get a game night or a Ziggy companion in UnderQuest? And so Jason reached out to me and was like, hey, would you want to add Ziggy, your dog Ziggy, to UnderQuest? And I was like, yes, dude, that would be freaking amazing. So guys, in the base game of UnderQuest, you'll be able to get Ziggy as a companion reward card to come along with you on your adventures. And he'll also have his own special encounter card to go along with it, because of course you'll have to encounter him in order to acquire him as a companion. So I am so excited about that. I'm not too sure what the other cards are going to be used for yet. Jason and I will brainstorm some cool ideas for that. But yeah, that is going to be amazing. So super, super stoked on that. And then the large tracker cards will be really cool too. One other little thing that I mentioned to Jason, I told him I've been using these 3 little mini red D6 to track my stats, and they're very convenient, and they should probably be added to the game. So you could look forward to that. Those are going to be added to the game as well. Also, I wanted to talk about morality. So I want to get into a little bit of the rebalancing here. I'm not going to go too much more into detail because, again, a lot of this is subject to change, but just to give you guys a little bit of an idea of some of the things that I've noticed and changes that I'm proposing be made, so that you guys are kind of in the loop, and it gets you guys excited and maybe feeling a little bit more confident about the game, especially some of you who were feeling, a little iffy about it, or had just completely checked out after seeing the playthrough video and the way the combat was going. I do want to mention morality. So without going into too much detail, because I went into a lot of detail, I'll tell you guys too, I started a Google Doc that I shared with Jason so we can keep track of everything. I've got everything organized. I've got all the decks, the rewards, treasure, ingredients. Everything is organized and categorized, and I'm telling him certain cards that I think should change and my reasoning why, and all kind of stuff like this. And of course, it's ultimately up to him, but he's very open to the feedback and very receptive and appreciative of it. And one of the things that, we want to revamp is the morality system, because unfortunately, it's still too similar to Iron Helm in the sense that most of the time, the overwhelming majority of the time, actually, it's best to just make the bad decision and get the instant reward and the instant gratification, rather than making the moral choice and moving up on the morality tracker, because the rewards that you get for it are few and far between. They're very circumstantial and situational. You got to run into very particular cards that give you a reward for having positive morality. And typically when you choose the moral choice to increase your morality, that's all it does. It'll just be like move up one on the morality track, but you don't get anything. And I'm going to show you some examples of that here in just a second. So that's something that we're going to work on and try to revamp. And we have some ideas to do that. Namely lowering the boons, the rewards that you get from making the bad decisions on some of the cards, and also increasing the good things that you get from making the moral decisions on some of the cards as well. So among a few other ideas that we have. But yeah, so we're going to be reworking the morality system so that it factors in a little bit more, and it'll make the 3 familiars that benefit you from moving up on the morality track better, because right now the 3 bad ones are honestly just way better to have, because typically you're going to be moving down when you're making certain decisions because they reward you more. And then you'll get an extra benefit for having the familiar that, rewards you for moving down on the morality tracker. So now I want to talk about the rebalancing. And I'm just going to go through some of the cards here. I'm not going to go into incredible detail. But again, this is just to give you guys an idea of the things that I'm personally looking at and that Jason is looking at. And, letting you guys know that some of these things are definitely subject to change, most likely will change. And I'm telling you guys this because I want to instill confidence in you that the game is going to be even better than it was originally. And I want to say this out of the gate too. The game is incredible, guys. There's just a few things that really needed to be changed, namely the combat system and the other things that I've mentioned. But a lot of it is really solid. Like Jason's laid down a foundation for an amazing experience. It just needed a little bit more love and attention, and that's what we're giving it right now. So for the reward cards, there's really only one that I had mentioned to Jason that I think should change. It's the Crimson Cloak. It says whenever you beg at the false idol, you can reactivate a spent incantation. This is a very situational card. It's a reward card, so it should be powerful. You know what I mean? You've got to run into this if you complete a very particular quest. So it's a rare card that you're going to get only, like maybe 1 out of 3 games. Whenever you run into the false idol in the dungeon deck, there's 18 cards in the dungeon deck. That's a 1 out of 18 opportunity that you're going to have to even activate this card, and it reactivates a spent incantation, which is good if you're a spellcaster that has incantations. But for all the other characters that don't cast spells, or if you didn't spec into the wizardry skill, this thing's completely useless. And even if you do have the wizardry skill, it's still just not that good. Like, it weighs 1. I would rather have an open 1 weight in my inventory to hold 2 ingredients to constantly make potions with than to hold this thing. This thing is basically useless. So the change that Jason had proposed currently is to also add fire resistance to it so that maybe you block like 2 fire damage or something like that. So I think that's a cool change to the card. Again, not 100% sure what that's going to end up being. Once again, nothing set in stone. It's all subject to change, but just an idea for that card to beef it up. The main point is that we want to change that card and make it more useful. Also, I've mentioned this in my other videos. The Shard Axe is going to go from dealing 3 ice damage down to 2. The Amber Blade is going to go from dealing 3 fire damage down to 2. And the Bone Breaker is going to go from dealing 4 holy damage down to 3. So it'll still be very powerful. And it should be, because it's a 2-handed weapon, right? And it takes up the ability to hold something in your offhand, so it should deal some more damage. Also, I proposed to Jason that the gold value of the Shard Axe and the Amber Blade be dropped from 6 gold down to 4, so that they're more in line with the Spiked Mace, which deals 2 holy damage. So then you'll have your 3 weapons that deal the different types of magic damage: 2 ice with the Shard Axe, 2 fire with the Amber Blade, and then 2 holy with the Spiked Mace. And since the Spiked Mace is worth 4, I think it would only make sense for those other 2 weapons to be brought down to 4 as well. And I think that was it for the... Oh yeah, that was it mainly for the weapons in the treasure deck. And then there's a couple of other items in the treasure deck that I proposed should change. The Blessed Tunic, it's just not that great. It plays into curse tokens. It says whenever you're to gain a curse token, you roll a d6. And if the result is equal to or less than your place on the morality tracker, you gain 0 curse tokens, but you're never going to get to use this because, again, the way morality is currently, you're basically always in the negative. So this is just kind of useless. It also opens up the potential to abuse the new reroll mechanic where when you have to spend an experience point, you also gain a curse. And if you have this, you could potentially just avoid gaining curses. And maybe that's cool. Maybe you should be able to do that if you actually have positive morality. So once we tinker with and kind of rework the morality system, this item might actually be more useful and might even just stay the same, but it's one that I wanted to bring up. And the last one, this is by far the worst treasure in the treasure deck, is the prayer beads. It says it cannot be used if you have 0 or less morality. So already right there, 9 out of 10 games, 19 out of 20 games, 99 out of 100 games, you're not even going to be able to use it because you're not going to have positive morality. And even if you did have positive morality, you gain 1 health or heal 1 poison every time you resolve the altar. So the 1 out of 18 chance that you happen to find the altar in the dungeon deck, which if you got lucky would only be 5 times throughout the course of the whole game, once per dungeon level. At most, it could heal you 5 health or remove 5 poison or any combination of the 2. it's bad. And again, it weighs 1. I would much rather have that 1 weight of space open in my inventory for ingredients to combine into potions that will give me way more than 1 health or heal me of more than 1 poison. It's awful. It is terrible. So I suggested that this item be changed, and I also suggested that it actually be moved into the trapping deck and replaced with a very particular card in the trapping deck that is insanely good, and we're going to get to that soon enough. So I think that's all I wanted to mention for the treasures. Everything else is good. All the other treasures in the treasure deck, really, really good. All the other rewards, really good. Ingredients are perfectly fine. We're not going to have to touch any of those. The trinkets, there's only a few of them that I wanted to mention. The marbles, they're just not very great. It's a very cool idea. It's a cool little concept that Jason came up with, where the more marbles that you collect, that you have in your set, the more different colors that you have, the more they're worth. So if you have 1 marble, it's worth 1 gold. If you have 2 marbles, it's worth 3 gold. And there's only 2 marbles in the game currently. But once there are more added in future expansions, if you had 3 marbles, it's 5 gold. 4 marbles is 7 gold, and 5 marbles is 9 gold. So even all the way up at the top of the list, having 5 marbles and having to trade all 5 in for 9 gold is like you're trading in 1 marble for 1 gold and the other 4 for 2. And it just kind of sucks. Like, honestly, like, to put it plainly, it's not good clogging up your inventory with 2.5 weight worth of space to turn these in for just like a little bit of gold. Not great. So I proposed to Jason that these change. He came up with an idea. He said, maybe you can discard these to deal damage with them. I was like, that could be cool. I came up with a kind of silly idea that I think would be kind of thematically funny, is if you could discard these to reduce the enemy's initiative by the number of marbles that you discard, kind of like you're rolling them on the ground and they're like slipping on the marbles, which would be really funny. So these are probably going to get changed. And then the other one that I wanted to mention is the carved gnome. It's worth 1 gold, and it says the carved gnome belongs to the merchant Kaln back at the Lonely Troll Inn, and it has a value of 3 when trading with them. Without going into too much detail, I basically explained to Jason, I was like, that's extremely underwhelming. There are other trinkets that you can find, such as the ivory comb, that are just already worth 3 right out of the gate. With the carved gnome, you got to hang on to this in your inventory, clogging up half of an encumbrance, which, trust me, guys, you want as much open space on you as possible, mainly to get ingredients or to replace different items you have. You don't want to be hanging on to a carved gnome, clogging up your inventory the entire adventure, all the way through, beating the boss, and then going to Kaln at the Lonely Troll just to trade it in for a measly 3 gold. So the change I proposed was that you can trade it in for like a trapping or a treasure. And then Jason took that a step further, which I really like his idea, is that maybe you can trade in the carved gnome to Kaln, and he'll give you the option of 2 or 3 different treasures to choose from. And I think that would be really, really cool. And it makes it seem like the carved gnome is even more, sentimental to Kaln, and he's even more appreciative of it. So that's likely going to change, and it's going to incentivize you to actually want to hold on to it throughout the entire dungeon run until the end to bring back to Kaln. So that's the trinkets. Encounters. Most of the encounters are good. Some might change due to the whole morality situation that I mentioned earlier, and a lot of these are probably going to change to some extent in that regard, but not a lot, but a few of them. And just a couple that I wanted to mention right off the bat that are like the biggest offenders. The sarcophagus, I'm going to skip the lore text and just cut straight to the mechanical part. Leave the tomb alone. Move up 1 space on the morality tracker. So again, it's like I said earlier, typically when you make the moral choice, you literally just move up 1 space on the morality tracker. You don't get anything for it. And then, you'll get something for it if you happen to run into like the Archangel, the 1 in 18 chance that you happen to run into that in the deck. Or you can move down 1 space on the morality tracker. If you've got an evil familiar, you'll get a reward just for doing that. And to be fair, you would get a reward for moving up if you had a good familiar, but you'd get a reward for moving down if you had a bad familiar, and you gain a treasure card. So you could pull literally any you could get the shard axe. You could get the fortified shield. You could pull the iron helmet. You could pull scale armor. Like, it's insane. And that's not even it, dude. That's not all. You also get a combat quest token. So you get a quest token to further, progress through the game. There's no reason you would ever pick the first one, ever. Even if you moved up on the morality track and happened to find the Archangel, whoop-de-doo, you gain 1 extra HP. What would you rather? Gain 1 health 1 out of 18 times that you might run into the card? Or would you rather gain an ability from your familiar for moving down, gain a freaking treasure card, and a quest token? It's just a no-brainer. So this needs to change, and it will. And same thing with Batros. It's in the same position. Ignore the Warlock. Move up 1 space on the morality tracker. Again, the only reward you're going to get really is if you have a familiar that gives you a positive reward, which isn't going to be that big of a deal. And then that 1 out of 18 chance that you happen to run into like the Archangel or something. Or you can sit with the Warlock, move down 1 space on the morality tracker, gain 2 ingredients, which is amazing. Crafting potions in the game is like my literal favorite thing in the game, and it's so good. And you gain a Mystic Quest token. So you also get a quest token. Again, no reason to ever pick the first one. So I'm not going to go into too many more of these. Those are the 2 biggest examples that I wanted to share with you guys so that you could see why the morality system needs to be revamped. And as a byproduct of that, some of the encounter cards are going to have to change. The enemies, for the most part, those are all good. The only thing I really noticed with the enemies was that the trawler says the fishman is immune to holy damage, which that's going to be removed because that text isn't needed anymore since enemies only take the type of magic damage that they're weak to. And it says gain 1 ration if you defeat the fishman. Fish, yummy. So I told Jason, you might want to change that to say you gain 1 ration if you defeat the trawler, but I also told him you could just leave it as the fishman as a nod to Iron Helm, and I think that would be kind of whimsical and cool. So I don't know what he's going to do with that yet, but personally, I kind of want it to just stay saying fishman. It might confuse people that haven't played Iron Helm, but I think it's cool. It kind of rewards all the people with like a little Easter egg who have played Iron Helm. And if you haven't played Iron Helm, get Iron Helm, guys. What are you doing? Get Iron Helm. I know some of you guys send me comments and you're like, should I get Iron Helm? I'm thinking about, yes, get it. Get Iron Helm, dude. Get Iron Helm, get all the expansion, get the playmats, get everything. You can thank me later. The Abomination cards, only a couple of those really need to change. They're mostly good. And the Scourges, just a couple little wording errors. There's some grammatical errors here and there that need to be changed. And I had someone reach out to me and say that they basically have like a PhD level in English and they would offer to proofread the whole game. So you guys can rest assured that that'll be taken care of as well. Jason's doing all of this himself and I can vouch for it, guys, because, I'm a solo game designer as well. It's hard to keep up with everything. You're bound to miss something here or there. You know what I mean? So we're only human. Cool. So that's it for these main decks over here. The quests are mostly good. I don't think there was much I wanted to mention about quests. No, I got those, the encounters. One thing I do want to mention, I actually spoke to Jason earlier today. A little inside scoop. He's thinking that he wants to add a flip side to these trackers, to these level trackers, that'll be in red, and it'll be like a hard mode side that you use after you complete your first dungeon and beat the first boss, and then move into subsequent adventures. You'll flip this over, and typically you're going to get like less treasure than what you would normally get, and it'll make the game a little bit harder. So that's something to look forward to. Again, not sure exactly what's going to go in yet or not. Nothing is set in stone, but those are the ideas on the table right now. The quests are all pretty much good. There might just be a couple little grammatical errors here or there to change. For the trappings, there's a few trappings that I wanted to mention briefly. One in particular that's I find very important. That's going to tie back to swapping out the prayer beads into the trapping deck with a trapping that should not even that I think. It should objectively be in the treasure deck. I also had somebody else point that out too and mention. I was like, yep, I have that in the Google Doc. The Crude Sling, it allows you to re-roll initiative in combat, and if you fail the roll the second time and the enemy gets to attack, they add 2 damage to their first attack. That is brutal. I get it's high risk, high reward. I get it's really cool that you get the chance to re-roll initiative, and if you get to attack first, that is very good. It's good, but it's not as good as it was, because with the revamped combat, you're rarely going to one-shot enemies. If it was the way it was before, this thing's actually really good, and it's way more worth the risk, because just one-shotting the enemy is almost worth just taking the 2 damage. But in this case, getting the jump on them most of the time, it's still a big deal, right? Because you're going to take like 1 less hit, so it is still really good. On average, you'll get hit 1 time less. Like if you get a shot on them, they might hit you once, and then you hit them and they're dead, as opposed to if they get to hit you first, then you hit them, then they get to hit you a second time, and then you hit them and kill them. So it's still good. So this might stay, and especially because it's a trapping, and you don't want the trappings to be too strong. But I did propose that maybe it get knocked down to they add 1 damage to their first attack instead of 2. Again, I'm still undecided about that. I just know that anytime I have the crude sling, I never want to re-roll initiative because I don't want to take 2 extra damage. You know what I mean? So you guys might be different, but I've found that I just never use it. And then it kind of just makes the effect of it pointless. So, you know, with the 1 damage, there's still a risk. You're still taking extra damage if you fail, but it incentivizes you to use it a little bit more. Again, not sure about that one just yet. The Fur Cloak, this is probably going to get nerfed. Instead of saying reduce all ice damage you take by 2, this will go down to 1, reduce all ice damage you take by 1. Being able to stop magic damage, which is already across the board unblockable by defense, being able to stop 2 of it is really good. So like when you fight the skeleton, for instance, I believe the skeleton says he does 2 extra ice damage, if I'm not mistaken. Let's pull him out really quickly here. Yeah, when the skeleton successfully hits, you take an additional 2 ice damage. With the Fur Cloak, you just don't take anything. You know, you just don't take anything. So at least blocking 1 of it, I think, is better. And again, it's a trapping. So, you know, you can get this right out of the gate at the beginning of the adventure from Callan at the Lonely Troll before you even head out into the dungeon. So it's probably going to get nerfed. And here's the big Mac Daddy of them all, guys. The Mossy Lantern. Once per dungeon level, you may reveal both dungeon cards and resolve 1. Both cards should be considered as the first card drawn when resolving. This card is literally the magic lamp from Iron Helm, except instead of going into your inventory as an accessory, it's an offhand item now. So it does take up an offhand slot, which, you know, does knock it down a peg a little bit. It's not quite as good as the magic lamp because of that, but it is still insanely good. And honestly, it's better than the magic lamp because it's a trapping in this game, and you could buy it immediately. You could buy it immediately. In Iron Helm, the 2 best treasure cards that were not weapons or armor were the ring that let you skip ambushes once per dungeon level, and in the lamp that let you do what the Mossy Lantern does. Look at both dungeon cards and choose one to resolve. It gets you out of so many jams. Being able to have this as a trapping, way too good. So I suggested to Jason that this card actually be turned into a treasure card and put into the treasure deck and swapped out with the prayer beads. So expect that to happen. Hopefully, fingers crossed, I can get that to go through. I really think that needs to happen. The skills, I think all the skills are mainly good. There's a couple cards in the dungeon deck that I'll just briefly mention. The altar, again, this kind of plays into morality. You can heal. You remove poison equal to your place on the morality tracker. You're basically never going to be in the positive. You can remove curse tokens equal to your place on the morality tracker. You're basically never going to be in the positive. You can pray for favor, move up 1 space on the morality track and gain 1 grit. Sometimes that actually does come into play, mainly just because you want to get the 1 extra grit. But the thing that you're going to use this for 99% of the time is guidance. Gain 1 quest token of your choice. These other 3 things, they may as well not even be there. The altar may as well just say gain a quest token of your choice. It is insane. That is way too good. It's so good. So the idea that I proposed to Jason originally was maybe you have to spend XP to be able to use this. And he came up with an even better idea that plays into the morality system here. He said, how about you have to have positive morality to choose that option? Yes, that is the way to go. It also makes sense too that you're like praying at an altar, right? Like, why would your evil character be able to go up and pray at this altar and get something for it? You know, the guys are going to be like, hell no, dude. Are you kidding? Are you kidding, dude? Did you think that we didn't see when you ate the pig man, when you cooked them up over the fire and ate them and got all that grit and health, dude? Did you think that we didn't see that? So yeah, I think it's going to be better that you need to have positive morality in order to get that reward. That incentivizes you big time because that is such a good reward to be able to just get a free quest token. Yes, please. That is insane. Also, the other one that I wanted to mention is the false idol. This plays into morality as well. You can beg for power, move down. Okay, I'm going to start with the bottom one, actually. You can ignore it. Move up 1 space on the morality tracker. That's it. You just move up 1 space on the morality tracker. Or you can beg for power. Move down 1 space on the morality tracker. Gain 2 grit, which is insane. And a treasure card. Dude, that's the one I pick like 9 out of 10 times. It is insane. Like, yeah, cool. I'll take a free shard axe and 2 grit, dude, for nothing. Like, it's insane. And then beg for health. Move down 1 space on the morality tracker. Gain 3 health and a ration. I've picked that a hefty number of times too. Insanely good. You're never going to move up on the morality tracker. Again, Why would you want to move up one on the morality tracker for the off chance that you happen to run into the Archangel to gain 1 extra health when you could gain 2 grit and a treasure card? You know what I'm saying, guys? So that needs to be reworked a little bit, and it will. Don't worry, that will be reworked. And so I think that's basically it for the changes to the game. That's basically it, guys. So there might be some other little tweaks and changes that are made here and there, but that's the long and short of it. I know this video is a little long, but it's probably going to be a little while before you guys get more UnderQuest content. So I really wanted to go into detail with this one, and you guys know how detail oriented I am. I wanted to be fully transparent with you guys and give you guys the scoop and really clue you in to what's been going on behind the scenes and the conversations that Jason and I have been having back and forth, and the changes that I've proposed and changes that he's proposed, and new things that you're going to see in the game. Guys, it's going to be so much better for it. I've been playtesting with all of these changes in place, and I can confirm that I'm right around that like 40-ish% win rate. It feels so good, man. And even the ones that I lost, there were a couple that I got all the way to the boss, and I was like a hit or 2 away from killing them. It feels really, really good. It's very solid. It just makes you want to play again and again. You lose often enough that, you know, it feels challenging, but you don't lose so much that it's frustrating. And you win often enough that it feels rewarding, but it doesn't feel, you know, it doesn't feel anticlimactic. It gives you that dopamine hit, and it feels rewarding, and it feels fun. It's awesome, guys. I think the game in the state that it's in now is honestly close to perfect. It's fantastic. It's so much better. So I hope that reinstills some confidence in you guys. And since you stuck around for the whole video, and now that you know everything and you know the whole backstory and all of this makes sense, it's going to kind of go without saying, but I'll say it anyway. We want to keep playtesting the game. Jason especially, he doesn't want to feel pressured. He wants to be in sort of a more like creative mode again, where we're problem solving and we're actively playtesting the game. And I told him, dude, I'm going to playtest the heck out of this game for you, dude, and we're going to make sure everything is functioning properly. He's also going to playtest on his end too. So we both want some time to make sure that we make the necessary changes so that the game is as good as it could be for you guys, and especially Jason. And again, this is his game, dudes. UnderQuest is his. I am not trying to ride his coattails and inject myself into this. I'm humbled and thankful that Jason personally invited me on to do this with him and to help him with it. So the crowd sale as of now, guys, according to Jason, and again, this could change, but if everything goes to plan and things keep feeling the way that they've been feeling with these new rules, he's going to make all the changes that need to be made to the cards, reword things that need to be reworded, change the rule book and add things to it that need to be changed, all the stuff that we went over today and maybe more. And, again, some of this stuff might change. The plan as of now is to relaunch the crowd sale in January of 2026. So that gives about a month and a half for us to really fine tune and nail this down. Who knows? It might be sooner. Maybe we get to a point to where he feels confident about it and wants to launch it sooner. It might be later. I really don't know, 100% for certain. Obviously, I can't read the future. I wish I could. That'd be pretty cool, guys. Don't we all? But as of right now, January is looking like when the crowd sale is going to launch. So I know that's a little bit of a delay, but guys, I promise you, you guys, we've all been waiting this long, a couple years at least for this game to come out. Those of us that have been invested in it and following it, along the way. And some of you may have just heard about it a few months ago. And even in that case, I promise you, the game is going to be better for having gone through this little hiccup right here, and the work that Jason and myself are putting into, righting the wrongs and fixing these things in the game that I went over in the video today. You're going to be grateful that come January, when the crowd sale launches, that you didn't get the original version of the game. And I don't say that, with any disrespect to Jason, because a lot of the things in the game were fantastic and were done right. It just needed more playtesting, honestly. You guys are going to be thankful for it. And trust me, with how time flies, guys, it's going to be here before you know it, dudes. January will be here again. Again, technically, we've been through a few Januaries. I don't know if you guys know that. January will be here again soon enough in 2026. And you will be able to jump on the crowd sale again and purchase the game. And hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll go out around March or so. Because since the first crowd sale launched in November, it was supposed to go out in January. So that's 2 months later. I would imagine the game's probably going to ship out around March. So there's only like, maybe 4 months or so, guys. You know what I mean? 4.5 months, something like that, before you will have the game in your hands and you'll be able to play it. And also, once we make all the necessary changes to UnderQuest, Jason is going to send me a new copy of the game. He's going to get it sent urgent, marked urgent on the Game Crafter, and sent over to me so that I can go over everything. And we're going to experience it all again, guys. We're going to experience it again, man. I'll probably do another unboxing. It might not be as long as the first one, but I'll do another unboxing. I'm going to do another tutorial video. At that point, I'm going to take down the original tutorial and do another one. I know that first one was very long. Most of you guys did appreciate it. There's a lot in the game, guys. It was hard to include a playthrough and cover the game because just a playthrough by itself takes like 2 hours. So if I did a playthrough and explained everything, it would take like 4 hours. So I'm going to do my best to keep it around, an hour and a half or so if I can with that other tutorial. With the new tutorial, and then obviously there's going to be a bunch of playthroughs as well, and also I'll have timestamps in the new tutorial like I did with the first one, so that you guys can just skip around and go straight to the parts that you need, just like you're using a glossary to go through a rule book or something like that. So be on look forward to that, guys. Be on the lookout for all that stuff coming. I'm going to keep you guys in the loop, and hopefully I'll have that before too long, because again, if the crowd sale is going to launch in January, I'm going to have my hands on the new copy of the game well before then. So probably in a few weeks or something like that. So be on the lookout for new videos and UnderQuest, content coming to the channel here in the coming weeks. So yeah, guys, thank you guys so much for sticking around, man. I want to say too, I probably should have mentioned this earlier. Huge props, man, and I think maybe I did in the beginning. Huge props to Jason for making the very hard decision of canceling the crowd sale when it had literally over 1,000 sales of the game, guys. Guys, if that doesn't instill your confidence in Jason, because I don't want this cancellation. This is just me personally talking. I don't want the cancellation of the crowd sale to waver your sort of your faith or confidence in Jason. Dudes, if all he cared about was just like putting the game out and making money and like didn't care what the game was like, he would have just been like, nah, it's fine, whatever. I know that you noticed those things, but it's okay. I've sold 1,000 copies of the game. I want the crowd sale to go. That is the complete opposite of how he responded. He's a true game designer, dude. He's for the people, dude. He wants the game to be as good as it possibly can be, and so he took the hit, risked his own, sort of reputation to some extent. I don't mean to be too dramatic about it, because I know most of you guys are being extremely supportive, but I'm just trying to say, man, that Jason really cares. He cares about you guys, and he wants the game to be as good as it could be. And rather than, ride on the success of the crowd sale and how well it was doing, no, man, that's not what he's about. He wants the game to be good. That is first and foremost. So, and same for me. I want the game to be as good as it can be, and I commend him for making such a difficult decision, but he made the right decision for sure. So I hope you guys are even more confident in him now and respect him even more and show up in droves like you did the first time. But come January, hopefully, fingers crossed, if it's in January, for the second crowd sale. And you guys are in for a treat, dudes. The game is going to be even better. It's going to be amazing, dudes. It's going to be absolutely incredible, and I can tell you firsthand because I've been experiencing it myself, and I've been absolutely addicted up till like 3, 4 in the morning playing UnderQuest over and over again. It's messed up my sleep, actually. My sleep is all messed up now. I'm blaming UnderQuest. I'm blaming Jason. I'm going to blame myself a little bit, too, for the changes that I made to the game. But yeah, you guys are going to absolutely love it, man. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that fills you in, dude. You guys know me. I'm gonna give you the scoop, dude. I'm gonna go into detail and give you all the juicy gossip, so that way you come away from this video hopefully satiated. But if you do have any other further questions, be sure to post those down below, and I'll do my best to answer them. And I'll relay any of those questions that I might not know the answers to Jason, and I'll do my best to get back to you guys and let you know about that. So thank you guys so much for watching. One little thing I do want to add here at the end of the video, guys, it's kind of exciting. I have channel memberships now on the Game Night YouTube channel. So if you want to become a channel member, feel free to sign up. There are a couple different tiers that you could choose from. You could be a squire or you could be a knight and join me around the game night table, guys. Either as a squire or knight. Either way, you're cool. You could be squires. It's cool. But yeah, guys, if you want to do that, feel free to do that. Right out of the gate, you'll get 4 custom emojis that were done by my younger sister. She is an amazing artist, and I absolutely love the way the emojis came out. She nailed it, dude. She absolutely nailed it. I was ecstatic the first time I saw them. They are so, so good. So I'm so proud of her and so appreciative of her for doing that for me. And you guys are going to love them, man. There is just to give you guys a little preview, there is a knight with heart eyes. There is a knight that's laughing. And then my two favorite ones, there is a die that you can see 3 faces of, but there's a 1 on every side of it. And my favorite one is a goldfish with a knight helmet on it, guys, because of course I got that goldfish memory, dude. So yeah, you'll have those 4 emojis. There's also some little perks in there too. You'll get a badge next to your name. You'll be able to get access to videos early, member only chat rooms. There's some other things on there too. That you can check out for those rewards that you get access to for the 2 different tiers. So there it is, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching, man. Thanks for sticking through this long video with me and letting me update you on everything in the game. You're completely in the know. You are now completely in the know. You know everything that's going on, guys. So I hope you feel more at ease about it, and I hope that this quells any fears that you may had. And all of you guys that were sitting on the fence or had decided to jump off the fence and walk away from the game. Hopefully this will reinstill some interest, and that you guys will feel more confident about the game and want to actually jump on the crowd sale the second time around. So if you enjoyed this video and it was helpful to you guys and gave you some information, man, hit that thumbs up like button down below. If you want to join us, man, hit the red subscribe button and click the bell so you can stay updated every time I upload brand new videos. And in the not too distant future, I will have another unboxing tutorial and plenty of playthroughs of the brand new and improved UnderQuest coming very soon, as well as other solo tabletop games that will be coming to the channel every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday as normal. So be on the lookout for all of that stuff, guys. Thank you guys so much for the support. Again, shout out to Jason for creating this awesome game and letting me be a part of helping him make it the best that it can be. And I hope you guys are excited about it. Leave all your love and support for Jason down in the comments below, and I'll be sure to relay that over to him. And until the next one, guys, have a good one, and I'll see all you guys in the next video.